Hello guys, welcome back. It's Illogical as always, and today, well, you've already seen the title and you've already seen the thumbnail, so you know exactly what this tier list is going to be about. But the one thing that you don't know is the fact that this was requested from one of my followers on TikTok. So he simply asked, make a tier list of the most degenerate weapons to use in PvP. Now, this coming off the heels of he found the R1 button. So basically it describes R1, well, not an R1 spammer, a weapon art spammer, which is excruciatingly common, and my reply was as follows: oh god, guess it's time to piss off the PvP community. And that is exactly what I'm about to do, but there is one pre-rule that we need to set aside, and that there's breaking down what PvP is. PvP is simply player versus player. But in Elden Ring, it's a little bit different because there is 4 categories for PvP. You have invasions, which is out in the overworld, invading people. Normally it turns into a 2v1 or a 3v1. It's completely separate. You have simple duels in the Colosseums, so you do. You have free-for-all duels, or 3v3s, and you have with the spirit summons included. So, with all of that broken down, the main one that we are going to be focusing on for this is simply duels. And the reason why is because it's a 1-to-1 etiquette. Invasions, there ain't no rules. You can heal, you can fight, you can kill. Invasions have no rules. Free for all, it's survival of the fittest, and 3v3s is normally reliant on teamwork, but at the end of the day, it's 3 versus 3. Duels is 1v1, mono a mono, basically. And there is just certain tactics in the game that are distasteful, we will say. So we've got 5 areas for our tier list, so we do, but we're going to be using numbers to sort of explain the way that they work. So 0, for example, is basically, it's super busted, requires no skill to use, and has minimal counters, absolutely minimal counters, so it does. And so as it goes on through to 4, so 1, 2, 3, and 4, basically as it goes down the list, they're easier to counter, or they have more counters, they're easier to deal with. That's how it's going to work. So I'm going to be tackling these in no particular order. Up first is bull goats, or just any incredibly high defense, high poise armor. Now, realistically, once you see them, they're a joke, but you still have to understand that they are still effective. But they do have more counters than most others, so we're going to stick it in at number 1. Next up, we have Bloodhound Step. Now, Bloodhound Step, personally to me, is not as bad as it used to be. It used to be a mega annoyance, so it did. It's a joke whenever I see it now, because most people are normally anybody who uses it is normally terrible at the game. So they are. I'm sorry, but there's the hard and cold facts of it is that. But no, Bloodhound Step is nowhere near as bad as it used to be, so we'll give it a 2. Next up, we have Bleed, which is still a nightmare to this day on the right build. Sorry, but even some of the shitty builds run Bleed, and even a noob can pick up a Bleed build and win with it. It is still busted, it is still broken, and it's still unfair. 0. Absolutely no skill required. Up next is Bestial Sling. Not particularly annoying, but it's not particularly skill worthy either, but it's still enough to know that if you're on low health, somebody's going to swing it out on you. It's more an annoyance rather than a skill issue, so it is. So 3. Here I figured I'd just lump all the dragon incantations in together. Honestly, they're not as bad as they used to be. The main offenders were Rot Breath and Ice Breath, but with them having been nerfed, they're nowhere near as bad, so I'll give it a 4. Ha! Dual Great Spears! Ha! 0 all the way. Absolutely no skill required for this type of setup. Absolutely 0. I am sorry. Actually, I'm not even sorry. Whoever uses this setup is nothing but a troll. There is no skill requirement for this setup in any way, shape, or form. 0. Dual Spears. What else do I need to say other than 0? Dual Spears require absolutely no skill to use. Absolutely none. They are easy to use, incredibly high damage, incredible phantom range. 0. There's no skill in them. Dual straight swords. Wow, there's a lot of dual weapons on this list right now. 0, because again, they require absolutely no skill to use. They're primarily used with jumping attacks, which have insane phantom range, insane damage, and they're easy to use. And people spam them like there's no skill requirement in using dual swords. There's no skill requirement, it's just jump and attack. So guess what, guys? 0. Next up is Frostbait, and personally I haven't had that much of an issue with it, unless it's paired in a certain way, but personally I don't believe Frostbait is as nasty as it actually is, so I'd give it a simple 2. So this one kind of annoyed me. Fist weapons. I'm unfortunately going to have to give them a 0 thanks to that new true combo that was discovered. I had used these weapons before the buff, and they were strong then. But now they're just overpowered, so they are. And they require absolutely 0 skill to use, which is unfortunate because it's a 0. There's no skill in these weapons anymore, and goddamn, that's unfortunate. Great shields are moreover turtle poking, or fingerprint shield specifically, because the fingerprint shield still has a devastating weapon art if used, so it does. But turtle poking is still a nuisance by every stretch of the imagination, and it does require very little skill, so I'll give it a 1. Next up is healing, or any healing incantations. There's some that I can't abide by, like the healing over time, but see the flat burst heals that you can get, like Great Heal and Heal. I am sorry, but if you bring these into the Colosseum, you are nothing but a troll, and it requires no skill. All you're doing in the Colosseum is there to piss off your opponent. You're not there to win, you're just there to piss them off, and quite frankly, it's quite unethical, and it's quite a shameful thing to do, so 0. Madness. How would I put this? Or where would I put this? Personally, I believe if we take everything into consideration, incantations and weapon, the only time this thing becomes absolutely unbearable to look at or see is whenever it's paired with another 0 on the list. But as madness, as in terms of the incantations, I'd give it a 2, so I would. But there's always something else taking the 0 spot, and when paired, it's a 0. Guess it's time to expand our tier list a little bit. So next up is Moonville. Moonville, personally, it's a bit of a joke weapon because nobody knows how to actually use it. They just spam the weapon art, but even spamming the weapon art has a tendency of being effective, or else they wouldn't spam it. But if you know what you're doing, then it becomes irrelevant. So I'll give it a 1. Quick step. Personally, I don't like it. Personally, I think it's a joke. Personally, I think it's trash. But people seem to have been able to make use of it, and the people that do make use of it are excruciatingly annoying with it. AKA, they like to fish for backstabs. It's annoying, but not uncounterable, so it isn't. So I'll give it an easy 1. RKR, or Royal Knight's Resolve, 0. The thing takes no skill. It's normally paired with a thrusting weapon, and it's an 80% damage increase. There is no skill requirement in it. It's just reliant on hitting your opponent. You run at them or you jump at them, and you get the damage. It's 80% damage for no freaking reason. 0 skill required, so 0. Rivers of Blood has been beat to death at this stage. Quite frankly, it's nowhere near as terrifying as it used to be, so easy 4. So Swift Glenstone Pebble is a unique situation because whenever it's used in combination with stuff, it can be annoying, but whenever it's solely being used by itself, it is a pain in the ass. But it does have counters, so I'll give it a 1. So next up is the Serpent Hunter Spear, but we're going to group in the other great spears as well because they are all incredibly powerful and they all lack a good counter, so they do. But the Serpent Hunter is specifically annoying because its crouch attack can't be parried. It's the Great Sword, the Ultra Great Sword crouch attack, which makes it absolutely busted in my opinion. But no, all great spears require absolutely no skill to use. It's just the Serpent Hunter just stands out that little bit more, so it does. Next up is the Sleep Stars effect, and you're mostly going to see it in conjunction with the Pulley Bow. If all three bolts land, you're going to sleep, and it's a free opening for your opponent. There is no skill requirement for this kind of build, so 0. And last up you have Storm Stomp. Now, personally, I don't like it because it's a skillless weapon art. But if you pair it with any weapon, you're going to land the follow-up attack, so you are. So quite frankly, it's a 0 skill weapon art. It's free damage, statistically. So it is, and it's just there's no skill requirement in using it, so there isn't. Okay, so final thoughts is relatively quite simple. So it is. I think I have narrowed it out quite well. I have cherry picked a few things and I've left a few things out because it's very specific circumstances. So it is. But as it sits, I'm nearly sure this is about as accurate as you're going to get it in terms of a degenerate PvP list. Like as says, everything from 2 and up is just it's understandable at that stage. 2 and up is just like, dude, check yourself before you wreck yourself. So it is, and 3 and below is more or less just reserved as a joke. So it is like the Dragon Incants got hit real freaking hard. Rivers of Blood's just a joke now, and Sling's normally only used to clean up. So it is, so they're more of an annoyance, and it's not really the fact that they require skill. Like Bloodhound or Rivers of Blood does require skill to use, so it does. And then whenever you go into the 2 Bloodhound Step, normally it's only new people that really use it. So it is because it's easy evasion, but over time you learn to be able to deal with it. Frostbite and Madness as standalone status effects, you don't really see that much. Like the frenzy incantations are not overly overpowered unless it's on an unending frenzy. I think it is, but even at that though, that again that's used as a cleanup. As long as you're not super low on health, none of these things are brutal. But then whenever you get up into 1 and 0, like you've got insane high poise with insane defense. Like it's just like, dude, do you really need all that armor? Then you've got Turtle poking with great shields. Fingerprint shield by itself with shield crash will destroy you. Moonville users, are just bad. So they are. Very rarely will you ever come across a good Moonville user. It's normally they're just flat out lucky. Quick steppers are just people who have refined their ability to do quick step backstab, and at that stage it's just annoying. Swift Glenstone is just, what do I even have to say? It's okay whenever you're comboing it, but whenever it's solely just being used for that, it's just that. It's just like, dude, seriously, is that all you're going to do? You're a mage and you're casting a single spell. What's the point in being a mage? So it is. And then once you get up into 0, like bleed paired with anything is going to be broken. It's as simple as that. Bleed paired with anything's broken. Dual great spears, broken. There's no skill requirement. Dual spears, dual swords, fists, all incredibly powerful, either by phantom range or true combo. It's stupid the damage that they can pump out, so it is. And then they think that they're good. There's no skill requirement in any of those. Whenever it comes to healing, it's just like, dude, if you're bringing healing into the Colosseum, it just means that you're a bad player and you're healing just to spite the person, so you are. Resolve, friggin' Royal Knights Resolve, it's a 1 button 80% damage increase. Like it's 2 taps and your health's gone. As for great spears, and more like the great spears are strong by themselves, but then when the Serpent Hunter just has the friggin' greatsword, the ultra greatsword poke for no goddamn reason, like come on. The biggest issue with that there is the fact that you can't parry the damn thing. If it was parryable, I would be able to bear it, but there's why it's used is because it can't be parried. Sleep is just free damage. Sleep's paired with the fucking pulley bow, and if all 3 bolts land, you're asleep and it's free damage. It's the same as Storm Stomp. You can't be aggressive against somebody who uses Storm Stomp because you're going to end up getting stun locked. It's free damage. So it is. So again, I think I have narrowed it down quite well. So guys, I hope you all enjoyed. I know there's going to be some people that didn't. And guys, I shall see you all in the next video. Goodbye.